late Gil Fagiani, a co-founder of the VMF and one of its more energetic members. While the VMF is an educational organization, we've always woven cultural activities within its message, as our core members include scholars such as Dr. Gerald Meyer, author of Vito Marcantonio, Radical Composition, 1902-1954, Los Más Valientes, a Latin jazz quartet that you've had the pleasure of listening to, is going to be entertaining you today, and that's another sort of a cultural touch that we like to introduce to our programs. So I just want to thank you for joining us on this gorgeous day, and hope our activities will inspire you to also become active members so we can continue our work educating communities about the ideals and the history of unique politicians like Vito Marcantonio.
One more round of applause for Los Más Valientes. One of the goals of the Vito Marcantonio Forum is that we want a multicultural United States of America. And that's part of what our agenda is that we don't all have to become Anglo-Saxon. Anybody that wants to become Anglo-Saxon, they're welcome to do so. But nobody should be coerced into becoming an Anglo-Saxon. People have the right to their own cultures, develop their own cultures. And that was the belief of Leonard Cavello, who was Marcantonio's mentor. A great educator. I'm just so happy to be here in this wonderful music. We're just doing so well. And I think what we're doing is, to learn that is very helpful to all of us politically. Because I think what occurred in America is that the McCarthy era won. They won. They wrecked everything. They wrecked the unions, they wrecked all the organizations, the fraternal groups, and they wrecked the Communist Party. They destroyed endless numbers of people's rights and lives. And so there's a kind of, if you look at American history, there's kind of this whole period, 15 years or more, of wasteland where nothing happened, and everything from the past was lost, including the memory of the past. And so when we started again to build a movement in the 60s, we had no memories, we had nothing to work with. And where we had successes, we couldn't sustain the successes. And we couldn't continue and build those successes. And so we're quite certain that learning this history will help provide a guidance and inspiration for all of us that are in the struggle for peace and justice today. In the time of Marcantonio, what would be different? What would be different if there was a Marcantonio today is that he would be speaking in the House of Representatives against the United States threats to invade Iran. Absolutely. He was an extraordinarily effective lawyer. He was, but that wasn't the end of it. He was also an extraordinary human being. When he was walking along East 116th Street with some friends, he saw somebody that put his hand out for some money. So he reached in his pocket and gave him some money. And the person he was with said, he goes, "That's not going to help the revolution." Marcantonio turned to him and said, "This guy can't wait for a revolution." So while we have these wonderful goals, which we must keep in mind, so that makes, it gives meaning to what we're doing, our day-to-day work, that we can see that we must not lose hope, that there can be a better society, that we don't have to have a society where 1%, in this country today, 1% of the population of this United States has more money and wealth than the lower half. And this is a country of what, 350 million people? Divide that in half, and a handful of people have more money than all of those people. So these are the issues that we need. We need to get our voices out there. And I think, though, what the Marcantonio model and what really attracted me to him was not only was he brilliant, not only was he courageous to an extraordinary extent, I liked that he was so effective. There's nothing like winning. There's nothing like it. And he kept winning and winning and winning, despite terrible odds against him. Anyway, don't forget about us. Don't forget about our work. I'll tell you, we have so much that we've been doing. We need some more members who want to plan with us, that want to plot out. We need people that have suggestions about what to do and join us. We're really kind of a really nice group. We only meet 7 times a year for 2 hours at a time. So if you have 14 hours in a year to spare, please join the Vito Marcantonio Forum. Thank you very much.
Now, last time I introduced Gale at one of our events, you could see the reluctance of people going through her bio, and bios are written very clinically anyway, right? But I like to bring bios to life. So I'd like to say a couple of things. I was listening to Bobby Darin's song this morning. Bobby Darin's an Italian-American who was born in East Harlem during when Vito Marcantonio was a congressman. Then he went on to also fight for with Robert Kennedy. And there was a song called That's the Way Love Is that came on. And there's a line from That's the Way Love Is, and Bobby Darin sings the definitive version of every song. There's a line in there that actually applies to politics. So spare me this 20 seconds of torture. It goes something like this. It's the world's oldest unsolved riddle, the kind of game you just can't win. Come up with the answer. You're a better man, sir, than I, Gunga Din. Anyway, so the thing is, I can't believe I did that. Anyway, the thing is that the problem solver here is not Gunga Din, it's Gale Brewer. I can't think of a public official who is more in problem-solving mode than Gale Brewer. And which is one of the reasons why we're giving her the Vito Marcantonio Award. She was the chief of staff to Ruth Messenger when Ruth Messenger was borough president. Gale and I were in the same building together in the 1980s because she would do outreach for Ruth Messenger. I was a tutor at the Dome Project, and I remember you visiting. So then as a council member, she passed legislation guaranteeing sick leave for hourly employees, requiring all city data to be published online, protecting domestic workers from abusive practice. And one of the things I would hear about you, because I was working at the city council, is how you had terrific constituency services. You wanted no request to go unanswered, which completely parallels to Marcantonio. If you read chapter 3 or 5 of Gerald Meyer's book, you'll see that kind of mechanism in Vito Marcantonio's headquarters, like everybody's got to follow up every 2 days, right? So then, Gale became the 27th Manhattan Borough President in 2014 as he passed legislation, was responsible for legislation to reform deed restrictions, add caregivers to the city's anti-discrimination laws, remove criminal history questions from initial employment applications, which is called the Fair Chance Act. My writing is like a doctor's writing, right? So, compel landlords to fix repeat violations, which of course rarely occur in New York City, right? And require street numbers on buildings in Manhattan to help emergency workers, which is a perfect example of Gale thinking about the things that a person might day-to-day complain about. Because I myself get frustrated about why aren't there any city numbers on certain buildings in Manhattan. And I can imagine Bureau LaGuardia and Vito Marcantonio being extremely sarcastic at the pretense of Manhattan landlords not putting the building numbers on their buildings. So the last thing I want to say is that because of the connections that she developed with constituencies, I heard that when you were running for borough president, some of the people that were running against you, you had more name recognition in their districts than they had themselves. I won't name names because I'm not McCarthy, but But again, she's leveraged that, the connectivity to people, to advance a progressive agenda, to the point that in 2018, Gale Brewer served as the chair, one last sentence, served as the chair of the Large Cities Council of National League of Cities, and has been named as a member of their 2019 Human Development Federal Advocacy Committee, which advocates NLC policy positions on issues involving social services, children and learning, poverty and income support, employment and workforce development, equal opportunity, social security for seniors, individuals with disabilities, public health care, mental health parity, and immigration reform. Okay, ode to Vito Marcantonio, the spirit of Vito Marcantonio. So, for this reason, I don't know if we should all gather around to hand it to her right now, or should we let her speak first? But for this reason, we are giving her the Vito Marcantonio Award, and I'd like you, the fifth year up for this. So without further ado, I'm sorry, and I'm sorry for my singing, Gale Brewer.
Thank you, Roberto. I cannot tell you what a huge honor this is, because this gentleman, Mr. Marcantonio, is a hero of mine like none other. Let me be clear. AOC is no Vito Marcantonio. And let me be clear, I would love to see his Twitter account. Can you imagine the Vito Marcantonio Twitter account? That would be a riot. But to be here today is a huge, huge honor. I want to thank Dr. Meyer and my wonderful friend Roberto, who's also a great friend of Brian Kavanaugh, who's a state senator, and we share Roberto in terms of the fan club. And Maria Lizella and certainly Adam Meyer for all you do to keep this wonderful organization so strong. Because it's not just here. We were down in front of City Hall recently with a particular effort. Everything you do is important because people like this need to be kept alive. I do think Bella Abzug also was another person who fought like crazy in the Congress. Two individuals, Vito and Bella, and there's nobody like them today. There's no question about it. So, and also when you were at 116th Street and Lexington Avenue, having the corner named after this amazing man. All of this is important, and I'm really honored. I wish I could do constituent work like that. We try. Everybody needs to be answered in my office. And I have to say, as borough president, we have a storefront office at 125th Street, because before, borough presidents were in the tall office building, and I didn't like that. So just like your Congress members, right behind us, we made sure that we are on the street. So, I mean, I have very little to add compared to the amazing work, but the fact that he was a protege of Fiorello LaGuardia. I got it. Sorry. And then he succeeded them in the congressional seat, and then he represented East Harlem. And then he was dedicated in Congress to the heart and soul of his beloved community. One reason some of these idiots lose their seats is they spend too much time in D.C. and they never come home. And that was not his story. And he protected his constituents from mistreatment during World War II. He fought for the East Harlem, Puerto Rican, El Barrio community as well as the Italian community. Understand? And he was an advocate for civil rights for all people working to desegregate Washington, D.C. in addition. And he introduced the 1945 resolution directing an investigation of segregation in Major League Baseball. We owe all of Major League Baseball to him also, because it helped break the color line, open the door for Jackie Robinson and the Dodgers, and led to the professional sports being integrated, all due to this amazing man. And of course, the Anti-Union Taft-Hartley Act, he tried to defeat that. He fought for employment practices, and workers and farmers. Take a look at what went on in the state legislature. It took 20 years to help the farmers upstate, and he did it long ago. He represents the very best of our diverse and tolerant city. There's no part, this is really important, there's no part of the struggle for justice that Vito Marcantonio did not touch and inspire. He had it all. He had vision. He had grit. He had the common touch. He had the intelligence. He had the deep compassion for the suffering and of all men and women in the street, no matter what color, ethnicity, or belief. Just like Roberto said, we could use him today. But we have his inspiration to guide us and give us hope and remind us that his struggle is our struggle.
You know, the only thing I can add to what's been said is something I really, really think is very important. That, you know, if you really want to evaluate a friend, if you really want to evaluate a family member, or a teacher, anything that comes to mind, is whether or not they show up. It's that frigging simple. No, not necessarily, no, but that they show up. Sometimes they do it on their own time, but that's really and Gale really showed up for us. She repeatedly came to our events, standing in the street, prepared a speech, and stayed. She didn't make a cameo appearance. And through her talk and her presence, she added tremendously to the importance, the significance of our events. When at Roberto's suggestion, we had a commemoration for Vito Marcantonio where he dropped dead, near City Hall Park across from the Woolworths building. And so we had an on-the-street commemoration. We've also had two at Woodlawn Cemetery where he's buried. But the one, Roberto's thoughts, which was very, very wise to do, we had it where he actually fell dead. And Gale came there. It was a very hot summer day, and that's because he died in August. And she stayed with us. I think it helped a lot too, because I don't know if what we were doing was quite legal, bringing all that sound equipment out and so on. So I think when they saw you there, they said, oh, leave those guys alone, Pass by. So Gale, let me just pass this to Maria once and say that I love you. And I don't tell my partner that. I'm going to turn this over to, I want to turn this over to Maria Lissell, our Vice President. Roberto and me are the co-chairs, and Maria is the vice chair, and Adam is the treasurer. So we're quite a group. I'm very proud of all of us and all of our members that are here today. This is Maria Lissell.
Any remarks other than to say that, like Gale Brewer, we hope that you would also appear when we have an event, when it's 90% of the deal is to show up.
Right.
So thank you very much for being here today. And without further ado, let's give this to Gale because she so deserves it. She's always on time and she's always there.